What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Salt and Light podcast. Once again, we are Keenanless here in the
We're gonna go to the doctor for that, though, right?
Salt. We should have a name
Salt
for this.
Studio.
Okay.
I was gonna say the
There's a rock climbing gym called the Salt Pump.
Salt Cellar.
I think. Is it Salt Cellar? I thought.
No, I'm thinking of a name for this.
Oh, okay.
Anyways.
Isn't Salt Cellar in Portland?
So what is
Oh,
salt?
yeah. I think it's already.
What is Salt and Light? Is that not what this is?
Oh, they have those.
Pepper and
Are we
darkness.
making something new up?
No, have you been to the Salt Cellar in Portland?
No.
They have like all of these products made of salt, and then they have these.
Oh,
they
it's
have like
like
a lamp that
really
is
salt lamp.
made
I've
of salt.
I've
Yeah.
seen. Yeah, they have stuff. People. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking that would be perfect. Like if we put it in our coffee table here, and
So
we
that
could
would-
light it up every
a Himalayan
podcast.
salt lamp?
Yeah.
Yes,
I have one in my
salt
living
and
room.
light in
And
one
so,
spot.
and that would encourage us and motivate us in the right direction.
Yes,
It would remind
kind
us
of
of who
ground
we're
us.
called to be.
Speaking of that,
Yes.
speaking of accoutrements in your home, Adam, do you live outdoors?
We're
in a
going
tent?
right into
Do you
it.
live outdoors in a tent or anything like that?
Not
No.
at the moment.
Not
Do you have a
anymore.
dry home?
Most of yes.
Do you have a bed? You have
The
a
shower
mattress?
is a little wet,
Do
but
you have a mattress?
yes.
Okay, you sleep in.
I don't
okay,
own it,
how,
but-
how about you, Graham? Do you have a home to live in?
I have a dry home. Yeah, I
are
love
you-
my home.
Are you thankful for that?
So
Do
thankful.
you ever take it for granted?
Of course.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
He takes it for
I didn't take
granted.
it for granted after I went to Mexico, Nogales, Mexico, and I saw the conditions that people were living down.
Did I go
down
there with you? Were
You did, yeah.
Were we on that same
Do you
trip?
remember? Okay, random side note before
Yeah.
we go into what you want to
Yeah.
talk about. Do you remember when we were in the city of Nogales and someone, I think JL, bought a machete from the market?
Maybe.
Nice.
And I think it was Jared Cowger, being a young 20s youth pastor, had it in his hand. And there was this guy that was completely strung out that came up to I don't remember if you remember this, but I remember you were there. Jared, the guy goes, "Can I see that?" to Jared, and Jared gives him the machete. And I remember you just had this look of horror on your face, like, Jared Cowger, what are you doing giving this guy who's completely strung out this machete? And you were grabbing his wrist. You were sitting right next to him the whole time, and you had your hand on his wrist, like, this guy's gonna chop us off.
I don't remember that. Yeah, but it could. He could have.
It's funny, we could not do that mission strip anymore nowadays. I don't think the
What?
crime rate is so
no,
bad
it's
there.
incredible.
I think the crime rate is like 300 deaths per gang violence and murder.
because it is
per
a border
month.
town. I mean, it's right on the border.
It's awful.
You know what I remember doing that I really liked? We'll get back to our topic in a minute here, Deuce.
Yeah, I did. You had to
I
go
thought
there.
that was over.
Sorry.
Should we call each other by our nicknames? Because you're the Yeti, and am I the unicorn still?
No, we're coming up with a new nickname for me. Okay.
What do you want, Adam?
So, but I used to get up early in the morning
Yep.
when we were in Nogales, and I would go away from the little thing, and it was so fun to sit on the hill we were on and look down, and you hear these little trucks at like 6 a.m. making this little music, and they were the water delivery trucks.
Yeah, I
because
remember
they
that.
couldn't drink the water down there.
Right.
And it's funny when you think about it because of what you said, and because I walked around. I think I walked around with your dad a little bit one night,
Mm-hmm.
and the great Larry Strondak,
Yep.
and
The legend himself.
and as we were strolling around, now that I think about it, right now you probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty dangerous.
I've heard it's gotten.
Gringos.
I've heard it's gotten
Yeah.
a little bit worse.
Yeah.
But that's just what I hear. you
Yeah,
know?
I did that with my daughter too. I wouldn't subject her to that probably either.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. The good old days, man. You can't do that anymore.
No. So anyhow, back.
Yeah,
to
what were
that.
you wanting
so
to
that
talk
was
about?
That was a place.
So
you're right.
taking
we had-
things for granted.
Well, just kind of this is kind of an update. This is do we have like a news flash music that's on your
You can make a
board
sound
there?
effects.
Dun, 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 yeah, that's good. Well, so kind of want to
This
hear
just in.
hear your guys' thoughts. And a lot of people know we're working with a lot of the new Mainers that have come in. We're trying to help the hotels out. We're helping. We just helped Hope Acts out by giving them our offering proceeds for Easter, and we're working with a lot of the providers that are trying to help them out as well. And as a matter of fact, just yesterday, met with one of the directors from Amistad, and they're helping more singles, kind of almost some mental illness, some addiction situations. Those homeless folks. There are, if people remember, a couple of years ago when we had a large influx of new Mainers come up from the southern border, there was about 400. We put them up in the expo guys
Yeah, I remember that.
And so that was like overwhelming for people. I feel like I'm not stimulating you enough here.
What do you mean?
Okay, all right, you seem bored.
I was thinking about salt lamps. If I'm
Okay,
honest with
yeah.
you.
That's good. That's what we want to do.
Don't
right
worry,
now.
I'm listening.
I was
So-
thinking about how we could.
So
plug it in.
we had 400 come in at that time. That was overwhelming. Now we have 1,400 that have just all arrived.
Jeez.
That's
that,
insane.
that are homeless. Essentially, they're staying in hotels. We had to send a letter down. Not we, but folks in Portland to DHHS down at the border to say, you can't send any more people up here. We're full capacity everywhere. There's no place for somebody to go.
Over full capacity.
Over capacity. And so
No
that's a
vacancy.
situation there. But then it was interesting as well. So we have that, and we're working with that. And now there's some clothing needs as well. We're going to try to have a conversation tomorrow, trying to open up our building. We're having a number of conversations to help those folks out, maybe with ESL classes and different things like that, and trying to provide transportation. So all those who are listening, the hundreds of thousands now listening to the podcast,
At least, I think, yeah.
they can
give or take.
something like that.
Probably
they can participate in this. But now even the Red Bank, our neighbors, was just over there, just got bought out by a California management company.
Yeah, I
What are
heard
they
the
doing over
prices
here?
went up over there.
So they bought the Red Bank area as well as Liberty Commons, which is the one right next to it, and anybody who's there currently is going to get their rent bumped up $400 a month.
Wow.
Plus, they now have to pay for sewer and water, which is about another 45-ish, I guess, a month. And but if you are a newcomer, going to be coming in after they take over fully here, you'll be for a 3-bedroom in Red Bank. You'll be paying from what I understand, near $3,000 a month.
Wow.
In rent over there.
Goodness.
And so I was just talking to a gentleman over there.
That seems almost like exploitative at that point.
It does. I guess it's supply and demand, though, right? If they fill it up, then they'll just keep
right,
doing
and I
that.
guess in a lot of
Capitalism at
ways
its
you can
finest.
use supply and demand to exploit people.
Yes,
You know.
you can.
You don't have enough. You don't have enough.
I think it was my
laborers.
microeconomics
Why don't we just
class.
have some kids? Work at our mill.
Do you guys have economics classes in high school, in college? I had micro, but the one thing I remember is I probably get this wrong. Someone will say it, but we'll get back on track.
Yep.
The elasticity of demand, which
on.
was essentially how high would the price of a Snickers have to go before you stop buying one?
Right, exactly.
Right. And so,
But the problem with housing is,
yeah.
I mean,
have to
what's
have
your
a house.
alternative? I mean,
Well,
I can buy
sometimes I
a
have to have
payday
a
instead of
Snicker
a
bar.
Snickers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
what am I going to do? Make
Yeah.
my own little tent? That's where it goes wrong.
So I was talking to a gentleman. It was Kevin. He probably wouldn't mind me saying his first name.
Kevin the gentleman.
He's in a wheelchair.
Yep.
10 years ago, he got in a bad auto accident. Kind of wrecked his spine, which meant that it couldn't stimulate any of his muscles in his legs, so they atrophied, and so he's in a wheelchair. So we're going to try to set him up with a new one because his wheelchair was in bad shape. Great guy, though. 29 years old, his third kid on the
29.
way. Real positive attitude.
Yeah.
More than I'd be. I told him, if I didn't have Jesus, I'd be a little puddle of pudding on the ground if I went through what he went through.
Of course.
But he maintains a good attitude. So, but he now is going to be forced to move out because he can't afford that.
Where's he going to go?
Well, he's from Casco originally, so he may have to go back out there.
Yeah.
But he's got to, uproot the family. And then we talked to another gentleman.
Is this similar to gentrification in your opinion, or
It
different?
would be. That is probably exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's essentially they'll come in, they'll renovate all these places, so
The
they'll bring
prices
the
go
value up to try and match what they're paying.
And the people
People
living
won't be
there
able to
can't
pay it
afford
that
it.
are there.
Mhm.
So Red Bank has gone through a number of gradations of gentrification, probably over the last 20 years or so.
I mean, the whole Portland Peninsula is basically
Yeah, it's almost
gentrified at
impossible
this
to
point.
touch there. And from my own personal experience, we moved out of there because we
Yeah.
lived there for about 6 years. We moved out of there because of gentrification, just because it made the population far less interesting.
Right.
So we didn't
right.
just want to be there anymore.
Kind of white toast.
Yeah. It was,
Yeah, I heard
yeah.
Brooklyn's boring now. From
Is it?
the
Yeah,
natives
yeah,
who used
yeah.
to live there 20 years ago, where
Yeah.
it's a melting pot and there's a little bit more,
But
you
anyhow,
walk down the street, you weren't sure what you're going to get. You could get mugged, you could get a hug.
Right. Now, yeah,
But
now it's
just-
different. Yeah.
You get a nice pour over
bug.
coffee
Right.
at 5 different places that serve Kenyan pour over.
So now we have to ask
I prefer
ourselves,
Ethiopian.
Ethiopian.
what's our role in this to pray, right? We need to say, God, what's our role in this, maybe, rather than us kind of looking at that. But it's also a time when we found, because we talked to another gentleman who's 71, going through a similar thing. He's been there 29 years, and they're jacking him up another $328. They gave him a good deal. And you know what he used to do? He had this riding lawnmower, and he would mow about 8 lawns around him, just out of the goodness of his heart. But now he can't really do that with the gas and everything else that they're taking away.
Do you think this is coming from a place of greed from the top, or do you think this is a literal demand that people have? As far as I know, we've experienced post-COVID in the past year, extreme inflation in the past year, about just like our gas, regular food prices have gone up. XYZ, you know, our attention spans are getting lower and lower as Adam's putting down his phone. No.
Hey, how about Deucer? Does that make it a little bit better?
No.
Okay.
I have. Okay.
What are you going to say?
We want to hear what you have to say.
I was going to blame it on ADD.
There you go.
The housing situation?
No, the fact that I was on my phone and.
Oh, we didn't say anything about you on the phone. What are you talking about? Oh.
Yeah, you did right before. You were listening,
but he didn't. Then no one, our listeners wouldn't have known what he was talking about.
You said something about my attention span.
All right. If we were on camera, people would be watching you. They would say, "What is going on with?"
I also got a text from your son, actually.
Yeah.
Asking about food for rehearsal tonight, but I'm not on, so I had to make sure that
I'm not my son's keeper.
I said it.
I can't dictate that.
So, what do we do with this, Kurt? I mean, this seems to be a problem.
You're right.
You know,
you're right. Or is it? So that's the first question, right? Is it a problem? Do we consider it to be?
Right. Well, for these people, it sounds like it's problematic for at least a time being.
Do folks need an advocate then? Are some people who have less resources? Are they powerless in some situations?
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah, sounds that way. I guess we have to go full blown communism. That's the only answer. That's
that was Graham Strondak, and this is his phone number and his email address.
Just kidding, guys. That's not my perspective.
No,
but no, I mean, it's such a messy thing, right? And I think this is one of those areas where you'd love to see the church step in and be the church and help. And but even as far as what we're talking about, I mean, we can help out with places like Hope Acts and give them big offerings and help people's social and spiritual needs as they come through the doors here. But even as far as a service provider, we can only go so far for people.
Then the encouragement, just like the last one, that many of our hundreds of thousands of listeners could take advantage of this, because when Jesus says the fields are white for harvest, he's looking out at people, that we can begin engaging people who are pieces of their hope are being removed. Essentially, that's what this is. Then that also comes with that, is pieces being removed. So, I don't know, where would we find peace? Huh?
Right.
Adam, where would we find peace?
Jesus.
That's right. Come on. The living water.
Yeah. So, opportunities there.
I remember Adam and I had a fun experience at Red Bank.
Tell us about
last
it.
September.
We did.
We went around going door to door like a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses.
It was nice out. We didn't have any pamphlets, though.
And we promoted the block party that East Point was doing. But as we did that, honestly, it was really cool because we had a lot of cool interactions and with people. I remember one woman in particular, Ashley.
The Wiccan.
Yeah. And
it was a Wiccan cool conversation.
Ooh,
yes.
Wiccan woman.
She had some interesting things to say. I think that might be
She was also very open-minded, like very open to conversation.
Oh, so open-minded. Yeah.
Just refreshing.
It was tough, though. I really wanted to have more of a follow-up with her.
That's too bad that you're unable to get over there and talk to her again.
No, I should go over there.
You
gave her your number.
Yeah.
I gave her my number, and
Does Magdalene know that?
Planning on.
Yeah,
well,
I don't know.
This was the challenge about it, and I don't know if this was the right way to think about it. But as far as like the gender dynamic, I didn't want to make it weird. As far as she's a single woman, she had a son, so she's a single mom. But I didn't want to like go to their house because I felt like that was inappropriate.
Good opportunity to shout out to all the hundreds of thousands of our female listeners out there That we need you. You open the doors for us to make contact. So we found that out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Didn't she say she found like a dead person in their backyard?
Did, yeah, unfortunately. And then she had to tell.
Well, that
her
happens
son
every
that
day.
He was sleeping.
Oh yeah.
And which is
He
awkward.
definitely didn't believe that.
Yeah, he's like, okay,
He
Mom.
definitely
That's
knew.
one of those moments you're gonna look back on when you're 20 and go, I don't think he was asleep.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that makes a neighborhood interesting. I remember when we first moved into Portland, I went out to let Pickles
Grant
out to
Street?
go. Yeah, Pickles out to go pee in the back where our lot was, and I heard these noises going on. I went over, and there was a couple laying on the pavement in our backyard, just spooning one another. They were fully clothed
On the pavement.
on the pavement. They were both drunk, and they
wow.
they were just kind of cozying up for the evening, just in the middle where the cars would drive over.
Wow.
You got to
In the middle of the road?
No, right in the
man.
parking lot back there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was just after I don't know if it was DEA guys busted the house next to us because they were selling drugs there.
Yep.
And because I was out there one night, I remember, and these cars were driving through the back, and they just kept going through, kind of like a drive-through. Mm-hmm. And I was back there, and I noticed a guy who was a youngster from the Root Stellar when I was there, and I said, "Hey, what's up?" He had a very guilty look about him.
Was he pulling something out of the drain?
He was waiting for his mate to come out with
Plastic baggie?
Yeah, with what he was looking for. But it was probably less than a week or so before they fully got busted and booted out of there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a rabbit trail for you.
Were you able to write down some of these experiences? It sounds
They're
like
just
you could
all
have like a
in my
book.
head. There were a whole bunch of them.
My time in
Yeah.
Where were you living in Portland?
Grant Street.
Grant Street in Portland, yeah.
That one, Grant Street.
Between
Grant Street,
Mellon
yeah, that makes
Street
sense.
and Deering
How long were you
Avenue.
there for?
About 6 years.
Oh, 6 years. Wow, that was a long time.
Yeah.
Right near Holy Donut.
Very close
Did you
to
need
Holy
to kind
Donut.
of get a little bit more headspace and get out to Standish?
No, we miss the action.
Really?
But like I said, the action became less because of the gentrification.
Right.
So
right,
down
as you were
there, what
saying,
was
got a little
happening?
boring.
There were a couple of large management companies, real estate management companies, that were buying up these 3 units, or some of them were like 6 units, and they would renovate them, and then up the rent would go.
Mm-hmm.
And so the folks there was quite a mix back then. A lot of friends from Africa, and then some who were near homelessness, but they couldn't afford it anymore, so they kind of moved out and became sort of a hipster paradise.
Wow.
Yeah, it'd be like I could see you and Adam walking down the street. Yeah,
in the hipsters
a lot of skinny jeans, things like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Could you guys set me up with
That
some skinny
hipster
jeans?
movement.
I don't know where to shop
Sure.
for those.
Yeah, let's go to
What's
H&M
your,
right
I
now.
want them really tight around the calf.
What's your waist and your
That's a little too.
That's too
Yeah,
much.
yeah, it's a little too much for right on the podcast. Yeah.
well? How else
It
am I supposed to
depends.
get you
Are we,
jeans?
Are we
You can
around
see me after
Christmas
the show.
time, or
Yeah.
is this more in August?
Email
when
me.
You're on your
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
Email me your. Never mind.
So last night, Kurt, I got slapped over the head by the Lord in the best way. Maybe that's not the best analogy to use, but
go ahead, use it.
So we, as our rooted group, we did our prayer experience last night.
good to have you
Tuesday
there.
night, and man, it was a good time. Just from the worship to some of the words that you spoke, and so for rooted, we fast all the way up to the prayer experience together, and so I fasted yesterday.
And I tempted you. I tempted you yesterday afternoon with some Cheetos.
You did.
Yeah, and
did a good job.
you
I
withheld. Yeah, you
yeah.
did. Yeah.
I said, "Get behind me, Kurt."
Yeah.
Curtin. K-10.
All you have to do is think about what your fingers will look like after the Cheetos, and then
Yeah.
Exactly.
Especially
you
those
don't
red
want 'em
hot
anymore.
ones. Yeah.
And honestly, it was kind of one of those fasts that I felt like I was really bearing through. And I was like, oh, this is hard. I felt like I was trying to distract myself a lot, and I felt guilty about that. But then I was happy I went through with it, because last night, as I was just praying, I felt this kind of sense of expectation and desperation in my heart that I haven't felt in a while. And I didn't want to sit down because I was checking my heart rate yesterday. I don't know if it was because I was fasting, but my resting heart rate was like 55, and it was going down into the 40s at times.
Wow.
That's pretty low, even for me. And so I started walking around the stadium, the stands that we have.
Yeah.
Whatever we want to
I
call
saw
it.
you up there in the corner. Yeah.
And great time of prayer. And I just really could feel the Lord's presence And then I sat up on the top left, and as I was sitting there, I was just praying, and then I just said, I want to hear from you, Lord. And then he said, they need to know me because I'm worthy, or something like that, because I'm worth knowing. Talking about like Greater Portland.
Yeah.
Like, they need to know God because he's God, because he's worthy.
It's a good word.
And it was so simple word. Like,
that's
when
what they are.
Even as I say it out loud, I'm like, so not profound, but
it was to you though.
The emotion that the Lord instilled on my heart.
Come on.
As he was saying it.
Yeah.
I broke down in tears up there. And I was like so happy I was in the corner, because I was like, I was a little self-conscious because I couldn't stop crying.
Yeah.
But it was such a great thing. And then I asked the Lord, I said, God, this is so awesome. Do you have anything more for me? And I felt like he said,
no,
not right now. Like, this is as much as you can handle.
Yeah.
And it really was, because if I could handle any more, I would have just, I think my brain would have exploded.
No, that's what happened.
You know?
So I want to ask you a question, because I like to ask people questions when they have these experiences. Yeah. For that moment in time, would there be anything that would surpass that for you?
No, it was honestly the way I would put it, and I haven't had this in a while, but I felt transcendent, to use that word, and I felt like a spirit. Like, I didn't feel, and that sounds really weird, but I felt like I was like feeling what the spiritual realm was like.
So when Jesus says God's looking for worshipers, they'll worship him in spirit and in truth. You got to experience that. You came out of this natural realm and were face to face with them. Exactly.
And something that, as I was leaving from there, I realized that I need to work on for myself from the last prayer night, but it was helpful that I learned that lesson last Tuesday and I brought it into this Tuesday's. I kind of allowed myself to like enjoy that feeling and kind of rest in that kind of, I don't know, afterglow of being touched by the Lord. And I didn't like kind of rush on to the next thing. Like, I didn't pull my phone out until like an hour later. I kind of like didn't listen to any music or anything on the ride home. I just like kind of basked in it a little bit. I allowed myself to just enjoy it. Versus sometimes in the past, what I do is I just kind of go on to the next thing. And I feel bad because I don't let it linger and carry on with me. But then it also made me think of another thing is what I don't want to do. And sometimes, I don't know if you feel this way, like sometimes I don't even like to talk too much about my experiences with the Lord on a deep level unless I know the person well, because I don't want to like ride on the highs of my past experiences with him. So does that make sense?
So two things. First
of all,
because
I've done that in the past, and that was a topic I even wanted to bring up, was that dangers of the spiritual high. Well, because I think you have those highs and you're like, oh, this is amazing, but then you kind of almost live in the past.
Let's put that in the pot and cook it for a minute.
Let's cook that up.
Okay, yeah. So do you have something to say?
I was going to say stir the cauldron.
Okay, you can do that. First of all, when you're driving home, sometimes when you have those even 5 minutes of that, your brain is fatigued to the point I don't even want to listen to the radio or anything because I just don't want to process anything. I'm just going to let him marinate in my brain.
Yep.
And
is it that though, or is it like when you eat something really good and you don't want to like have a drink of water yet?
Could be both.
Like the aftertaste is like so good.
Could be both.
Like you're satiated.
You're like, I don't want this aftertaste to go away, so I'm not gonna drink water.
Yeah. My wife does that when we go to somewhere good to eat. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Maybe a little both.
Because like you don't want to ruin the feeling by listening to the radio or something.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely part of it. Like I wanted to linger in what had happened, almost like let it marinate a little bit. But at the same time, there was a fatigue in the sense of I felt like a healthy sense of I'm just gonna rest in this. Like I couldn't handle more insight or more depth from where I was.
So anyhow, it's been cooking on the pot for a minute.
Okay, let's cook it.
So I think so you don't want to walk into a place of pride,
right?
That's reverse pride. That says,
right.
I don't want to appear some way in front of people, which is could be your own pride saying it's about me.
Yes, it's like a humble brag.
Because so one of my arrangements with Jesus is I want to have an expectation that he's going to do those things to me a lot. Bring it on. And my deal, if I can call it that, my covenant with him is that I'm going to pass on what he gives to me. Because he needs conduits to be able to do that, and he needs conduits that are bold enough to then pass it on. Because think about what oftentimes people don't experience, that he wants everybody to experience what you experienced that night, right? And there's nothing better than that. There's just nothing better.
The best, yeah.
And so
it's that Psalm 63.
By you talking about it to other people and explaining it not in a boastful manner, but a manner that says, you too can have this. You can't flip a switch for it, but it's because he almost came, the way I'm hearing you, he came on you sovereignly, right? You felt some turmoil a little bit. I felt a little bit off. Walked around first, right?
And I walked around because I didn't want to fall asleep. I was afraid I'd fall asleep. I didn't want to waste the prayer time.
That's the thing. But see how his grace will just come on you regardless. And I think what we do is kind of like when Jesus says, when the disciples couldn't cast out the demon out of the lad when they came down from the mountain. And he said, this kind only comes out with prayer and fasting, depending on what version you look at. That's a lifestyle that he had. So as you start to ramp up that purposeful pursuit of Jesus, which is the cake in another conversation, says me,
exactly.
That you prepare your field. Your field becomes fertile for seeds to grow. We'll just keep the metaphors rolling.
I like that. Yeah.
Keep them up. And so now there's more to come, and like he promised you that. So even you asked him for more. And he said, no, not yet. But
he said I couldn't handle it.
Right. But now you get to anticipate that there will be more.
Exactly.
And that's a hope that you have.
Yes.
Because our hope is only in Jesus, and that's what you want to do, have more Jesus encounters.
I looked forward to my quiet time this morning more than I've looked forward to it in a while, which is great. And it was great. It was a good quiet time. It was amazing.
I could...
Not that the quiet time has a clear ending as far as I like to...
So I had
try to bring the Lord into every moment.
An interesting thing similar to that this morning. Do you want to have something to say so far, Deucer?
I'm not going to respond to that.
So
it's time I stick up for myself.
Hashtag stick up for Adam.
Yeah. Justice for Adam.
Yeah.
Justice for Johnny Depp.
Yeah, he's getting a raw deal, huh? There's people accusing him of things.
Yeah, apparently, though, he's coming out on top from what I've seen. But anyways, that's a rabbit trail that we can't afford to go down.
Well, this morning I was reading in Matthew 19 and 20. You can cut me off if I go too long on this. But it was interesting because I was reading along and I wanted some more. And I was thinking, so first it ended with rich young ruler. He says, how do I inherit eternal life? Jesus says, do this, this, and this. And he said, I've done it. And then he says, well, sell everything you got, give it to the poor, and follow me.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people don't see the second part of that. They say, oh, how hard it is to sell everything you got because he was rich.
Right.
But I think the main part is to follow Jesus. In other words, we through the narrow gate, we can't bring the load of our stuff, essentially. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to you, Adam? I called you Adam. Our load of our stuff just won't fit through that narrow gate.
Right.
The eye of that needle. We can't get it through there. So, and then he said, I think Peter said, hey, we've given up everything. And then Jesus says, well, you've given up everything. You're going to get all these things back. And then he said, and he who is the least of you will be the greatest, and he who is the greatest is going to be the least of you. Which is kind of interesting. But then in chapter 20, which shouldn't have a chapter designation there because it's a continued conversation, he tells this parable about the dudes who started at 5 in the morning, who got the same pay as the dudes that started at 5 at night.
Exactly.
And they got a little ripped off that, they felt that way, and that the master did that. And so they went to him and said, hey, you gave these guys this and this and
right. I just paid off my student loans and now they get forbearance.
Right. That's right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. And so
for all of our millennials out there,
that's right. The response was, what's that to you? I can do what I want. I fulfilled my promise to you, essentially.
Right.
And then he says the exact same Greek words, but he uses, in the English, it's translated, the first will be last and the last will be first.
Right.
And I thought, well, how is that comparable? Because the disciples had to do something they had to give up something, right? Because then they got that many more in this life and in eternity. And Mark says that. And these guys, it was totally passive.
Right.
They were being slugs, standing around street corners smoking cigs till 5 p.m. He gives them a full day's pay.
It's a paradox.
And so I was trying to figure that out. And usually I haven't been going to commentaries lately. So I was just rambling. So it was more of a mental gymnastics thing instead of a spiritual one. But I looked it up, and the guy just talked about it. Was very simple. He said, it's just demonstrating God's sovereign grace. And that just floored me, saying, yes, he has the ability to do that in either one of these cases, and all I can do is just follow him and rely on him.
Exactly.
I ended up having, a similar blubbering experience with him because he spoke through his word at that time.
Right.
And he has that for everybody. That's what we want to tell our hundreds, our million, probably by now, our millions of listeners.
So it's funny between the last time you said it and this time, it's gone up to 1 million.
It's funny you bring that up because I was just reading Luke 14 this morning.
Talk to me.
And in Luke 14, Jesus gives that classic Matthew 16, but it's a little bit different of the, if you want life, you have to die to yourself. And then he gives these two stories for how foolish would you be if you're a builder and then you don't get enough supplies and in front of everybody, now you have this half-finished tower. Like, what an humiliation.
It'll be so embarrassing.
What if you're a king and you're going up against this army that's 10 times bigger than you? And you don't count them up. If you go to war, you're going to lose. So if you're smart, you'll make terms beforehand and surrender. And so Jesus says, in the same way, those who give up their life will find it in the kingdom, something along those lines.
Yeah.
But you have to give up everything. But then the funny thing is, in the next chapter is Luke 15. Excuse me, Luke 15. And what we see in there is we see the lost coin,
killer chapter,
the lost sheep, and then the lost son, known as the prodigal son. And it's this story of this son who doesn't deserve the grace of God by any means, who abuses it in every single way, yet comes back and is like lavished upon completely. And the person we learn from in the story, I think, is the older brother, who's sulking out in the the weeds,
having a wow session
outside of the party, going, "How come you never threw a party for me?" But I think it's interesting what God says to him. He says, "Don't you know everything I've had? You've always been with me, and all I've had is yours."
Right.
And I think it's the same in the with the tenants in Matthew 20. Is sometimes we look at our experience with God as a chore, where we're like, "I'm giving up things for you, God. Like, I'm putting aside my sin. I'm not going down to the old port. I'm tithing to the church. I'm giving up my time and volunteering, whatever it might be. I'm not sleeping around." But God's like, is that a chore for you? Or are you getting life from it?
Yeah.
And I think for the older brother, he's seeing it as a chore when the father's trying to remind him, he's like, did you want something else?
Right.
And everything I've had is yours, by the way. And so I think in some ways our response as Christians should be when we see that person coming in the final hour and they are getting the grace of Jesus, which, we don't deserve that grace just as much as they don't deserve it, but he gives it to us anyway. But we've just experienced it longer in our life. Maybe we should almost feel bad for that person who gets it only in the last hour of their life, that, man, there's so much of your life that you've lost the opportunity to have an impact for the kingdom and to have this amazing relationship with the Lord.
So in that one, as that finished up, and I like even in the Luke 15, the three things that were demonstrated was a woman pursuing a coin, a shepherd pursuing a sheep, and then a young man pursuing reconciliation, right? So almost all Jesus really wants from us is our desire for him, right? So why would he say at the end of the deal with the guys getting paid throughout the day,
right?
What does first and last have to do with them? You know what I mean? Because ultimately they got equity, right? Everybody got the same deal in there.
Right.
So is that almost a rhetorical statement saying that it's almost not about that? It's so much not about that it's reversed from a kingdom perspective.
Yeah.
You can't see it. It's all mixed up.
Yeah.
Just thought about that.
And I think there's a part of it too that Jesus is trying to mess almost with his audience head in the sense of being like, this thing that you think you can earn, you can't earn it at all. And if you think you're first in the kingdom, you might as well be last. And those people who are last, who are humble, who say, I can't do it, I'm a wretch, I'm a mess, those people are actually in some ways first in line for the grace.
Yeah.
You know, like those who are forgiven much love much. You know, it's like when you recognize that you really are destined for hell in your sin, and then you get the grace of Jesus, you realize how awesome of a gift it is, all the more. And
even in your brilliant breakdown of that piece, that statement you said, if the listeners are trying to take that and logically step themselves through that, they're still going to be bankrupt, because it's by the Spirit that works. So they'll hear that, they'll hear a good word, but we have to mix that with the Spirit to actually let it penetrate who we are. So we can't do anything apart from the Spirit, and I think that's a message that's important for people, that this isn't a way of life where we just accomplish things, check things off, check the boxes off. It just can't happen that way.
So what are we being good boys for then?
Because it's an inside-out deal. It's not an outside-in.
You think you're a good boy?
Yeah.
Don't
talk to us.
Looks like your last.
Come on.
Yeah.
Rub my face in the dirt.
Come on, you Pharisee. I'm glad I'm not like that tax collector up there. That's what they're doing to me right now.
Oh man.
Well. Yep.
Good stuff, right, Adam?
Yeah, good stuff.
Do we have any role plays planned or anything like that?
Hey, what?
Have we started doing
Should
those?
you ask Kurt that question that we were pondering earlier today?
Oh, we do not have time for that.
No, we don't.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. It's a really deep question.
But
maybe we should just say it at the end, and then our vast listening audience could write in what they think.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody this week that said they commented. Did anybody see anything like
commented?
that?
Who?
I don't remember.
Maybe on YouTube?
Somebody commented on something?
I saw a comment on Facebook.
Oh, maybe it was, I don't know.
Oh, really?
I think Tom commented on our Facebook.
I think that's maybe he's the one who told me that.
Yeah.
Tom Fickeisen?
He said some encouraging stuff. I was like,
really?
wow, thanks, Tom.
All right.
That was really
shout out to Tom.
uplifting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Who am I thinking about?
By the way, right now, Adam is swirling his arm in circles.
Yeah.
Thanks for the play-by-play.
Yes.
Never mind. It's lost. It's gone.
Was it somebody that
I saw
something?
comment on something, said something that Kurt said was funny.
Yeah.
I must have dreamed it though.
Yeah.
Well, just wait until we get our first haters.
Yeah. Well, then we can start commenting on them then.
I can't wait till we have
Yeah,
haters.
that'd be fun.
Once you have haters, that's how you know you've made it.
That's right.
Right.
The more haters, the better you are.
In some ways, Jesus is like, that's the sign that you've made it, when you get haters in the kingdom, right?
Yeah.
So we'll
Blessed are those who
strive to get some haters
persecuted and
Yeah.
jump for joy.
Yeah.
For so were the prophets treated.
Well, on that note.
Thanks,
guys, for listening. If you have any comments or anything, concerns, criticisms,
or
critiques.
do you want to see Kurt dressed up in a fly H&M outfit with some
some skinny jeans.
Yeah.
Let me know. Email Adam@eastpoint.church. See you later.